Welcome to part 11. You may notice some water on here. Well, we're going to attempt to finish the leading edge, and the leading edge has a serrated length which folds back to the rib. Now, in the instructions, which I show here, they show a photograph of this, and it's obvious they want you to get it right. That's quite clear. What they ask you to do is to take out this part here, which is TWC L, which is the left hand wing. Now I've turned the board around, and to ensure that I don't make a mistake, I've written left on here and right on there. Well, you know, people make these silly mistakes, so design it out. So what they want you to do is use sellotape, 3 pieces of sellotape, so that the, I'll show you there, the edge of the balsa meets the top of that leading edge. Okay, now the thing is, that's quite difficult to do, and that is how I put this on. Once you know it's in place, you have to sort of bend it a little bit so that you know that that there will meet that rib. You have to get this end rib, this end here, to meet the end of this rib. They're not an exact size on this, which surprises me because everything else in this kit is. But anyway, you know, as I said in earlier episodes, you're not going to get everything perfect in manufacturing design. But anyway, not to worry. So then they say wick them in. So you wick them in from this side. And when you're sure that it's taken, you can then take off the tape. Now, it doesn't say this in the instructions, but I'm using a wetted sponge, and I'm dampening that so it has some give in it. Now this is quite fragile, it's only 132, hence the water on the plan. Another good reason to cover it over in some sort of plastic. So I'm just letting that soak in, and then gently doing that. Now they advise to use masking tape. Now my masking tape, which I do not have right next to me, is over on the shelf. So they do give dimensions for the masking tape. This is a little bit over the top. They say approximately 24mm wide and 100 millimeters long. So where's my ruler gone? There it is. So 24mm. Well, that's about right. Yeah, that's dead on. So in inches, that's 1 inch tape. I don't know why they don't put both measurements. I think measuring the length of that is a little obsessive, but hey, there you go. So I'm going to start from the middle, and I'm not going to fully tape it down. I'm just going to do it bit by bit. And don't forget this is wet, so it's not going to tape very well, but you've got to do something. You've got to put an even pressure on it. I think I'm running out of masking tape. Yeah. So if you don't wet this down, it's going to be very difficult. You've got to give it some sort of gentle encouragement. In fact, if I had more masking tape, I'm wondering whether it'd be worth running a strip this way. But trying to get it to go all the way back first go, I don't think is advisable. You'll just end up splitting it. Or we use something that's a bit more sticky. That one seems to have taken okay. But this is very thin stuff, you know. You can't be rough with it. Now they do say to do this with the right and the left in place. Well, I'm going to use a bit of patience with this because I'm not entirely sure that's the best way, but not convinced. Well, I'm not going to stick this down until I've got the other side in. But you know, you've got to give it a chance, and so you have to, well, it's the only way of saying it, you have to give it a bit of patience, you know. Just let it go bit by bit. That's it, amount of masking tape. So it's off to the pound shop now. So at least you're starting it, and little by little you can let it go over. Well, I wouldn't even attempt to bend this until that glue there has gone off, which is more or less what they say. Got some sellotape here, that might help just to get it going. Right now, I suppose what I could do, grab and roll that. Put something not light but not heavy, and I'll try and, oh, hang on a minute. I wonder if this will work. Not a bad idea, is it? Anyway, I'll let that dry out, and we'll come back to that. In the meantime, we're going to get some masking tape. Right, been down to the pound shop, 3 rolls for £1, so we might as well get one out ready. There you go, and just in case, I bought some double-sided. You never know when that's going to come in useful. Besides that, I do remember them advising double-sided tape to stick the radio in. Well, I prefer to use Velcro anyway. It's less destructive should you need to remove things. So, just find the end of this first. Why not? So, while I've been away, which has been about 20 minutes, half an hour or so, let's lift that off. See what this looks like. There you go. Done half the work for you. So that's really what you're looking for, isn't it? See if I can give you a close-up of that. There you go. So it's starting to take the shape without cracking it, which is the whole point, isn't it, really? So you get your best shot there. So what we need to do now, the reason I'm taking my time and using up these minutes and you're probably getting bored is because if you're making this model, this is important. You need to get it right, and I want you to get it right, because this bit is easy to get wrong. I know. I spent quite a lot of time off camera thinking about all of this, reading the manual again, then reading it again, just to make sure that everything goes as it should do, and then interpreting the outcome, because this destructions, although somebody has taken quite a long time and effort to write it, they tend to write it like an engineer, and a lot of people are not engineers and will read it differently. Now that's sheet 20 or 22. Put to one side. You never know when you want some of that. And then I'll grab my glass paper. Just take these little nibs off. Don't need to do a lot to do this. Where are we? There we go. Because that's important, that is. You do this, be very gentle. Really, I can't emphasize that enough. Be gentle. You know, not only is it thin, it's very, very soft. Okay, and then just run your finger over it. Okay, a little bit there. Now then, so by rights I've got to take this pin out now. I think in the drawings they put pins in the back here. There's another pin there, look. Take that out. Put them in the box. Now then, see how this lines up. Yeah, it's a little bit out there, right at the very end, but it might be enough for us to succeed. So let's try their method. This time I'll use the masking tape because I've got lots of it now. I'll just put that up against there. And this is really only just to hold it in, to give you a third hand, as it were. Just hold it in place. Okay. We can always fill this gap if we need to. There you go. I'm going to make sure that it sits on the rib, the leading edge. Make sure it's sitting on it. Okay. Look from the other side. So I'm just going to do exactly what I did with the other one. I'm not saying anything because I've got nothing to say. Of course, this is the end, so you've got to make sure this one was absolutely correct. And then just let that go off. And then we'll just copy that, which I probably will show you. Okay, so I quickly show you what I'm doing and how I've done it. So I've wetted down the right hand side, that's the right hand side there. Put my rulers on top of it, put some weights on it. It's not very heavy, but you know, heavy enough to bend it. And now I just got to let it dry into shape, and then we'll wick it in. So, moving swiftly on, that leading edge now, which I'm now going to call it, has become a lot more durable for its along its whole length. So I'm going to start from the middle, work my way that way, and then that way. Yeah, thing is, you've got to try and get those centre sections as best you can. So it might be wise to start here, then here, and just be really slow, deliberate, and careful. And just leave that for a few seconds. See how we get on. I don't think there's an easier way of doing this, if I'm being honest. Now, this is where I'm hoping the glue will set quite quickly. Makes you wonder what model makers did before they had cyano, doesn't it? This video may be quite tedious to watch, I don't know. But there you are. I suppose I could fill in the time with a quick song or some anecdote perhaps, or maybe not. Anyway, let's see if that's taken. Okay. Of course, it's suddenly occurs to me that the more that these edges, these teeth get into nearer to the rib, the harder it's going to be to get the glue in. And that has only just occurred to me. So I don't think I'll be gluing these parts, the teeth, down just yet from this point on, because I need to get room to get in between this leading edge and the rib. The other thing is that your fingers are going to stick to it. Now, being this is quite fragile, you have to be careful how you take your fingers off, because that wood could come away to your finger. This must be like watching paint dry. There we go. We're on our way. Maybe this will be quicker than I thought, I don't know. But I'm using a slight pushing motion as well as holding it down. Yeah. So I'm pushing forward and down at the same time. So all this really depends on how quickly that glue goes off. It doesn't fully cure for a little while, but it's enough to take your fingers off. I predict quite a bit of sanding. You want to get as far forward of those ribs as you can. I feel as though I'm rushing it now. But you really must get it right on the very end there. Yeah, I think I am slightly rushing it. Never mind. The die is cast, but at least that end rib looks correct. But as I said earlier, it doesn't fit exactly as other parts of this does, which is a little bit surprising. I mean, it's near enough. Don't get me wrong, it's near enough, but it's not as exact as, say, putting a fuselage together. Let's see if that's set. Be careful not to put any pressure on the middle there, you'll crack it. It has to be purely on the edge. And because I'm doing it from this angle, it's hard to see. Really I want to be this way, but this is at the top of the drawing. This glue sets quite quickly. So you haven't got time really to make mistakes. Well, you got time to make mistakes, but you haven't got time to correct them. Which is one thing I'm not keen on with Sino. It doesn't give you time, but then you need time in this case. But you have to make sure that what you're doing is right. And as soon as I get to the end here, I'll do the same the other side. It's pointless watching me do that because you've seen it now. Remember, this is the right hand. We turn the plan the other way up. I've done that purely just for access to the wing, because I left it in place because I suspect they're going to want me to build these ailerons while this is in place. So let's wait and see. I'm not read forward of where I am. I suppose I should do if I was wise. Oop. Anyway, if you've made any mistakes, I can guarantee they'll all show up once you've covered the wing, which is normally the way. I have to say that the engineering in this is quite good. It's been well thought out. As I said, I think the servo is a secondary thought by experience, the way they've done it. I would have used a different type of servo, but I'm going to stick with the plan. So I would have to say that the Vintage Model Company do make a good design, but I think they're a little expensive. I really do. If you want to get people to come into it, you don't want to spend all that money, something like this, and then a child mucks it up. It's a lot of money, isn't it? But then it costs money to produce these things, to manufacture them, it costs money to design them. As far as I know, they're only a small going concern. So it's probable that they are run by somebody who has a keen interest in model making, who wants to make a living out of it. I probably regret that now. I don't know. It's funny, isn't it, that if you had all this like 50 years ago, how good these things would be, and how much further along we would be, not only in aeronautics, but people's interest, because in those days you didn't have the internet, and so if the BBC made a program like this, yeah, and people took an interest, it'd probably take off. They did have I think it was the BBC, had a program called The Model World, with a gentleman with a white beard who was very twitty, and there was a generalisation that showed you how to make a frigate. But they didn't go in depth like you can get people on YouTube show you how to do this thing. So that's glued quite well. So I'm now going to do this side. It's pointless showing you that because you've seen it on this side and it'll just waste your time.